Hey everyone, welcome back to another Bible study. If you haven't already seen my first one, I will have it linked above. I did a Bible study on Romans 8 and y'all loved that video. I'm so glad that everyone found it helpful, and so I wanted to do another Bible study. I'm also working with Alabaster Co. in today's video. They are a company that makes Bibles. Each Bible is in the New Living Translation, and I was so excited when they reached out and wanted to work with me in this video. They sent me two of their collections. They sent me the Gospel collection and their Wisdom collection. The Gospels come with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, obviously, and they come in individual books, which I think is really unique. And then the Wisdom collection came with Ecclesiastes, which is what we're going to be doing today, but it also came with the book of Job, Proverbs, Song of Songs, and Psalms. I definitely want to do more Bible studies with these books, so comment down below and let me know which book you would like me to do a Bible study over next. So if y'all want your own Alabaster Co. Bibles, I actually have a discount code. I'll put it on the screen and I'll also link it in the description box so you can go buy it, especially if you want to read along in your own Bible from Ecclesiastes and from Alabaster Co. So let's go ahead and get into the background of Ecclesiastes. If you watched my other Bible study video on Romans 8, I did a whole background on the book of Romans and who wrote it. I'm going to do the same thing with Ecclesiastes. So Ecclesiastes is one of the wisdom literature books in the Bible. When you look at the very beginning of Ecclesiastes, it says, "These are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem." The author of this book was King Solomon. The purpose of the book of Ecclesiastes was to find the meaning of life. There is a character in this book in the Bible called the teacher, and he spends his whole life trying to find the meaning, trying to gain as much wisdom, and he watched everyone under the sun. He uses the phrase under the sun a lot. It's actually kind of depressing, but he says throughout the whole entire book that life is meaningless. No matter how hard he tried to search for things and search for meaning, he came to the same conclusion, and that was that life is meaningless. But I promise it gets a little more positive towards the end of the book because there is a good message. When Solomon became king, he actually had the opportunity to ask God for anything he desired, and so he asked for wisdom to govern his nation. So that's kind of the background of Ecclesiastes, and now I actually want to go through and read each chapter, dive into it. We're going to start with chapter 1. It starts off by saying, "Everything is meaningless. The teacher says, no matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are not content." He also mentions how history repeats itself and everything has been done before, and no one will remember us or what we're doing right now when we're gone, which is really sad because I don't know about y'all, but I want to be remembered by something. That's why I've shared my story. I want people to be encouraged and people to know that they're not alone, and I would love to be remembered by something when I'm gone, if that's a book, just something. And the thought of my life being completely meaningless when I'm gone is really depressing. So that's kind of a realization I came to when I was reading this book. And then in verse 12, we get a lot of background on who the teacher is. He says that he was the king of Israel, lived in Jerusalem, and he spent his whole life observing the people and life under the sun. Once again, he used that phrase. He says that no matter how much he observed and how much he searched for the meaning and the purpose of life, just realized that everything is meaningless. "I learned firsthand that pursuing all of this wisdom is like chasing the wind. The greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. To increase knowledge only increases sorrow," which I thought was really interesting because everybody always wants to have more knowledge and learn more and have more wisdom, but he's actually saying that pursuing that, he had more sorrow and more grief, which was really interesting to me. Then we move on to chapter 2. So he goes through these things. He says life is meaningless, wisdom is meaningless, pleasure is meaningless. So now he's talking about pleasure, that he looked for the good things in life and found that that was also meaningless. Like I said, the beginning of Ecclesiastes is honestly really depressing because he's just talking about how literally everything is meaningless. The teacher spent his whole life searching for pleasure and wisdom and other things, and they all had no meaning at all. Next, the teacher tries to compare wisdom with foolishness. They came down to the same fate, which was death. The teacher also says, "So what do people get in this life for all their hard work and anxiety? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It is all meaningless." This part really made me think because he mentions how worrying and anxiety is so meaningless because life is a gift from God and God wants us to eat, he wants us to drink, he wants us to be with other people and in community, and being anxious and worrying about something that may never happen is also like chasing the wind, chasing something that you can't see and that might not happen. And then in chapter 3 is when this book gets a little less depressing. It's about how there's a time for everything. You can go and read it. It says, for everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to tear down and a time to build up. And it just goes on, a time to cry and a time to laugh. And the thing that's really beautiful, it says that yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has made me equipped for my time on earth and the things that I'm supposed to do in my purpose. It's like he's taking care of every other creation. In the end of chapter 3, the teacher says, so I saw that there is nothing better for people than to be happy in their work. And chapter 4 is so good. It says, and I observed that most people are motivated to succeed because they envy their neighbors. I want to do a whole video on comparison, but that is such a good point, because a lot of people are motivated because they compare their success to other success. Sometimes I would compare my voice to other people's voices on the worship team at church, and I was like, one day I'll be where they're at. But that is just not the way to look at it, because we're all equipped differently. We all have different gifts. We all have different personalities. We all have different, body types. Whatever you're comparing yourself to other people, it is meaningless to compare yourself, because you're unique in your own way. And if we spend our whole lives trying to catch up to other people's success, we're gonna miss out on all the things that God wants to do in our lives. And that's what I've had to realize. That's why I've stopped comparing myself to other people, because it's meaningless. It's pointless to compare someone that has different gifts and a different purpose than you. The teacher also emphasized the importance of companionship. I think this is also really encouraging and really amazing, because we are not meant to live this life alone. We are meant to be in relationship and community with other people. It says, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. One person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Now we're moving on to chapter 5. This chapter tells us that too much activity causes restlessness, and too many words makes a fool. So I think this is just reminding us that we should, choose our words wisely and be careful what we say. The next part in chapter 5 talks about how money also does not buy happiness. Even those who have money never have enough. And I feel like we as humans always search for something more. We're never content with where we are or what we have. We always want something more. Even people that have all the money in the world still don't have enough and still search for more. We should not live life discouraged, frustrated, or angry. God wants us to eat, he wants us to drink, and he wants us to enjoy our short life under the sun, because when we really think about it, our life is so short. It goes by like this, and we spend so much time working and doing things that we don't want to do and worrying and being anxious. We should be enjoying this life, and that's something that I need to work on, not being so anxious because life is so short. Wow, look how pretty this picture is for chapter 6. Chapter 6 is probably one of my favorite chapters in this book, because it talks about how we're always searching. I've mentioned this earlier in the video, but we're always searching for something more. If we spend our life searching for more, we are never going to enjoy what we already have. Dreaming about nice things is like chasing the wind. We need to accept that things are out of our control. Enjoy life as we experience it. Live in the moment instead of living in the past or future. And this reminded me of a picture I saw on Twitter the other day. I'll put it up on the screen. I have it on my phone right here. It's about shifting your focus. It has our focus, how we focus so much on the past and the future that there's barely any room to focus on the present. And then in the second image shows how we should have our main focus on the present and think little about the past and little about the future. That is something I struggle with so much. So I'm gonna be praying over that. Have my focus, shift my focus on the present moment and live in the moment. Enjoy life as it happens. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. So chapter 7 is filled with wisdom and comparison about what is good and what is not. It also addresses the limits of human wisdom. The teacher concludes by saying that he has looked at the matter of everything from every angle but never found what he was looking for. Chapter 9 in Ecclesiastes talks about how whatever we do, we should do well. Don't take life so seriously. It's a gift from God. We all die one day, so we should enjoy it. Our time on this earth is so short. Another really interesting part in chapter 9 is in verse 11, and it says, says, the fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. People can literally never predict when hard times come. I know in my life, I've witnessed people suffering, and I could have never predicted when the hard times in my life came, but I do know that so many blessings have come from that. But we can never predict when hard times come, and that's kind of a scary part about life, I think, is the fact that we don't know when things could take a turn, and that's why we should enjoy this moment. And I know it's easier said than done, because it's easy to say, oh, just live in the moment, but it's scary when you realize that your life is kind of out of your control, and that some of the things that are going to happen and that may have already happened were out of your control. And in chapter 10, I'm gonna go through these last 3 chapters kind of quickly. Again, chapter 10 just kind of talks about, you know, what is good and what is evil and the ironies of life. And chapter 11 talks about the uncertainties of life. Life is uncertain. We cannot understand the activity of God, just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in its mother's womb. So you cannot understand the activity of God, who does all things. The teacher gives some advice for young people to enjoy youth, enjoy being young. And then in chapter 12 is where the teacher kind of concludes his thoughts and this wisdom that he's gained throughout his life. And his final conclusion was to fear God and obey his commandments. This is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. So that is all of Ecclesiastes. Honestly, kind of a perspective changing book in the Bible, I think. It really makes you ponder on the real purpose and the real meaning of life, what's worth it and what's not worth it. And I know it's changed my perspective a lot. Not worry so much about the future or my past, but focus on the present, because life is short. Most things are meaningless, yes, which is why we shouldn't take life so seriously, because the things that we think matter so much are really little and really small, and God has given us this life as a gift and we should enjoy it. So that is all of Ecclesiastes. I really hope you enjoyed this video, learned something new, found it helpful, and please give it a like if you found it helpful. It really helps me out. Also, make sure to go check out Alabaster Co. I said in the beginning of the video that I will have their Bibles and my coupon code for y'all linked in the description box. Also, comment down below and let me know what Bible study you would like to see me do next. And also make sure you subscribe for more faith related videos like this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye!